Hello everyone and welcome to another What I Think review, and today we are going to be looking at the new, or at least newish, because they've been out for a while, but this is sort of the first time that I've reviewed them because I've been waiting to get all of them together. This is the new 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday action figures from Character Options. Now we have obviously different variants here. These two in the middle, which are the Vortex edition, which are the CO exclusive ones, which have different outfits compared to the standard release ones, which are the outer two, which obviously also have, as well as different outfits, different boxes. They contain different accessories, have different art deco as well. So I really wanted to put all of these in a review to sort of review them all together. Now, I want to start by looking at the Vortex editions, complete with the slipcase that they've got. But there is one thing that I am going to do in this review, which may be slightly controversial, but I'm going to do this going forward for reasons that I'm about to go into. So I'm not going to take the standard ones out of the box, because the boxes for these ones are basically a bubble pack put onto a standard bit of card, not dissimilar from the sort of revived era figures in the sort of early sort of 2000 and I think it was around the sort of 2006 actually onwards, where they were basically just bubble packs put onto a bit of card. The problem with those is that you can't reseal them once they've opened them, and so for these standard ones, the reason I'm not going to open these is because A, I want to keep them looking good in the box. B, because apart from the art deco, as far as I'm aware, they don't actually have any differences in articulation, because they're exactly the same models. They've just been repainted slightly differently. But what I am going to do, because obviously these ones, I will say, all of these, I have bought all of these. I haven't been given any of these as advanced samples or anything like that. If I am given any of these standard edition ones as advanced samples, I will open them, because that seems fair. If I have bought them, then I feel that as a customer I have the right to review them how I wish to review them, so I will keep them in the box. So it's not something that I'm going to do all the time. It depends also as well on what the other standard figures we got. At the moment, we know we're getting the 15th Doctor and we know we're getting Ruby Sunday. If we do get other different ones in future, we could get an entire plethora of variations from other series, from other Doctors, or even just future series and things like that. So I don't know if I'm going to collect them all. We'll have to wait and see. Until it happens, I don't know. But it is something which, again, I feel like it's what I want to do as a collector, but I also do want to be fair that if I get given these to review them, I don't want to keep them, I'm not going to, as much as I might want to keep them in the box, it seems a little unfair to keep them in the box if I've been given them for the purposes of review. So if I buy them, I will probably keep them in the box. If I get given them to review, I will open them. I think that's a fair way of doing it. But as I said, first of all, we're going to get up to looking at the Vortex edition versions, complete with the new slipcase that we can see in them. So box-wise, these exclusive versions have this lovely little slipcase on them, which is very nice. It's an interesting little detail that we've never seen before, and obviously that just lifts off and we have the two figures inside. It might seem a bit of an odd thing to mention that in the review, but the thing I would like to say is, as much as I like the slipcase, I feel like it would have been nice if you'd had the sort of slipcase open at the front here, and you'd had the two figures sort of open almost book-like, so you would have had one that would have had the package the other way round. I appreciate that would have meant having to create a whole new different box to do that, but I equally feel like it would have perhaps been a good investment, because you could have then potentially had some really nice Doctor and Companion double packs, or even you could have had a Doctor and Master double pack. So I think it's worth sort of bringing this up, because I really think that there is potential there for that. But obviously we have the figures in the boxes themselves. They look absolutely fantastic, really nice. I love the new box design. I think it looks really, really good. I definitely prefer this box design to the standard release ones. just because I think these are easier to repack, for example, you know, for one thing. But it also, I like the sort of, I don't know what it is, I just really do prefer this sort of actual proper boxed look. I don't know what it is about it that I like, but it does look absolutely fantastic. Obviously we've got the 15th Doctor in here, you've got some fantastic accessories, you know, we've got that it's the Vortex edition, the scale of it, 15th Doctor, and obviously it's got the 15th Doctor colouring. Same with Ruby Sunday, obviously we've got Ruby Sunday Vortex Edition, 15th Doctor Vortex Edition. Obviously lots of logos and things on it as well. And then if we turn it round, you can see on the back, so we've got a picture of the 14th Doctor as he appears in this set. Little thing of what contents we've got in it. Same with Ruby Sunday, picture of her as she appears in the outfit with the contents as well. We've then obviously got a little bit of background information about the characters, and then also here we've got this interesting new little bit, Vortex Edition. I'm going to read this out. It says, Doctor Who Vortex Edition. These were a new range of Gen 3 figures which feature a higher specification deco applied over the base colour plastics for extra detail. Features include internal pivots on the neck, ball joints on the shoulders, and internal pins on the arms and legs. Same on this one. So it does seem that these ones do have sort of slightly better, I don't wish to say better, but certainly more higher art detailing than the standard release ones. It's definitely certainly an interesting thing to see that we're getting ones that do have slightly different art detailing on them, but I can understand that. I think it's a very nice thing to do, because it does mean that, you know, a lot of people were saying about the price of these, and you do have more of a reason for these to be charged at a higher price if they've got the different art detailing. And I know there's always going to be umming and ahhing about the price, but ultimately they are that price. If you want them, that's the price you have to pay. You know, and I know that's a controversial way to say it and way to put it, but you know, that is sort of what I feel about it. But let's have a look at the actual figures in the box themselves and what accessories we've got. So here we have our 15th Doctor figure along with his 3 accessories. The detail on these is quite small, so it's a little bit hard to capture on camera, but we have, first of all, the sonic screwdriver, which is all fully sort of moulded. You know, this isn't stickered or anything like that. It's really got a huge amount of detail on it. This is in its blue design, and obviously it does fit into his hand as well. Really nice little one to have that as a sonic screwdriver. We've then got the psychic paper, and I have to say this is actually the accessory which I'm most excited about, because for this being such a prominent thing in the show, I'm honestly surprised it's taken us this long to get an accessory of it. You know, it really is a lovely little sort of piece of design, you know, and I think for this figure, this is actually going to be one of these accessories. It's actually going to be quite highly sought after, because I can think a lot of people are going to want these for display purposes and things like that. The only thing that I potentially would have done on this, which is, it seems a very silly little thing, but it's something that I would have done because I feel like, not so much for a collector, which is perhaps why they haven't done this. I think if you... Okay, I'll say this another way then. If you were to include this in a future standard edition as an accessory, more intended for kids to play with, I'd have a little heat sensitive sticker on here, so you put your fingers on it for a moment, and then a little message will pop up on it. Just a little bit more playability for the kids, but as an accessory, you know, for a collector, I think it's an absolutely fantastic thing to see. And then here we have the landmine from Boom, which is obviously stickered on the top, but it's actually got sort of ridges on the edge where it's actually been sculpted, and then obviously underneath you've got a little bit of you know, copyright information. The thing that I would say with this accessory is, I personally would have put that accessory in with a Boom variant of the Doctor, and I would have potentially had a little peg on there, so you could have actually used it as a stand and have him in his Boom outfit standing on the landmine in the pose he's in the episode for most of it. You know, I think that would have been a really nice little thing to see as a variant, but you know, that's just me. I think it's you know, I'm not complaining about getting it as an accessory, and it's, again, you know, it's not something, to be fair, that, you know, with a little bit of know-how, with a, you know, a drill and a little bit of plastic rodding. If we ever did get a variant of the Doctor from Boom, you could easily make that a stand for him to stand on. But now we're going to get on to looking at the figure itself, and I'm going to do some close-ups on it in a little bit. But the first thing I want to do is sort of really get into looking at it and actually look at the articulation that's on this, because obviously we've got a huge amount of articulation on it. So obviously we've got the usual legs swivel on it, so the legs themselves, so we've got, in fact I'll do this from the head up, let's do that. So obviously ball jointed head means we've got a very huge amount of articulation on the head, which is absolutely wonderful to see. We have ball jointed shoulders, so they can move up and down and obviously all around as well. We then have a new swivel joint on the elbows, which is a bit stiff. It doesn't go to a full 90 degrees, but again it does mean that you've got a good bit of give on that, I have to say, actually, even though it doesn't go to a full sort of 90 degrees. I think as well, you know, if you want him pointing his sonic screwdriver, he'd have it sort of in a relaxed, you wouldn't have him necessarily completely straight armed, or you would, but I don't think he'd necessarily fire his sonic from the hip. But even if he does and you put the sonic in his hand, actually, let's put it in there, if I can pick it up, it's a very small accessory. If he has the sonic in his hand and he's pointing, you would probably never have his elbow at a complete 90-degree angle anyway. So obviously that it's the same on the other shoulder. Obviously we've also got a feels like a ball joint in the hand as well, but that's got a good amount of articulation on it. He has got waist articulation. In fact, what I'm going to do, I don't know if this is going to work because I don't know if the coat... Okay, the coat is a separate piece. That is useful to know for future reference for customizers. So there's no peg in the coat. It seems that is just a separate piece. He does have sort of... I was about to say, so I thought the waist joint was actually on the top of the trousers, but it's not. It's actually sort of in the actual waist area of the trousers. So he's got a good amount of waist articulation. The legs, now they are not on a ball joint as they were before, or if they are, I think they are actually, and I've seen some people say this, the legs really don't move out, they will only move up and down, and that's actually, so let's have a look. So that's as far up as his leg goes, and it really doesn't move outwards, so you've actually lost a little bit of articulation there. Obviously we've got the thigh swivel joint area. Obviously on the leg you've got the usual bend in the leg, which again doesn't go all the way back, but you have got it, whoops, you have got a ball joint in there, which means there is a fair degree of give in that. And then also the feet as well are also on a sort of a ball joint, but again there's not a huge, you can turn it from side to side, there's not a huge amount of give in that, and actually that foot joint is a little bit loose, I'd say, as well, but it doesn't seem to really detract from that. But I have to say, actually, even with the coat off like that, it wouldn't be difficult to do a knot. I think if you put on some different arms for this, so he had sort of rolled up sleeves, you could actually do, this sculpt does lend itself to having a coatless variant. That is to say, I feel like this has been sculpted with the intention of doing a coatless variant at some point. I'm not saying they are, I want to make that very clear, that is just my speculation, but from viewing it, it does seem like there is a potential for a coatless variant there, so maybe we are going to get a coatless variant. I think a coatless variant of the Space Babies one that's seen in the standard edition would have been nice. But yeah, in terms of an actual figure, it's very good. In terms of what we've got, the detailing is nice, and I really do just want to get a close-up on the face sculpt of this figure as well, because I honestly think this is one of the best face sculpts that Character Options have ever done. It's absolutely fantastic. I showed this to my other half, and she's not a huge Doctor Who fan, but even she looked at this and said it really looks like him. It is absolutely fantastic. The one thing that I do want to pick up on the head sculpt is I've seen some people say they've had a little bit of an issue on the side here, just under his ear, where there's a sort of manufacturing mark, and there's a tiny one there on mine. I don't know about the other side. A little bit on that side. It is the tiniest of tiny things. Now, obviously some of the pictures I've seen of other people finding them, it's quite noticeable. I've clearly been fortunate on these ones that it's not that noticeable, but I think it is worth saying that you are going to find things like that on a toy. You just are from time to time, and I get, don't get me wrong, I get people's annoyance about it, I really do. But I also think it is something which has been blown a little bit out of proportion. But maybe that's just me. That, you know, I want to make it clear again, I'm not trying to blow smoke, you know, and curry favour with CO. I've had to pay for these as a consumer. You know, and I bought them knowing full well that they could have that issue, but thankfully it doesn't seem like there's been that much of an issue. But again, it's the kind of thing that is there, you know, from time to time. But now let's have a look at the Ruby Sunday figure. So here's the Ruby Sunday figure with her accessory. She comes with her bag and her phone, again, both of which sort of fit into her hand. I have to say, the bag, as much as it's a nice little accessory, I have to wonder why they didn't include this at the very least on one of these, even her phone, in the standard edition. I feel like you could have had one of these included in it. But you know, again, if it's you know, it means getting a slightly cheaper figure without an accessory, that's, you know, fair enough. And I just think, you know, if you've got these accessories, including one of them would have been nice. But that's just me. In terms of the figure, again, really nice looking figure. Certainly very nice sort of detailing on this as well. So let's have a look at the articulation on this one. So again, we have the usual ball joint on the head. Because of her hair, you haven't got as much articulation on this one as you have on the 15th Doctor one. But again, you've got the ball jointed shoulders, ball joint on the arm, which again doesn't bend all the way, but you've also got your ball joint sort of wrist manipulation on there as well. So let's have a quick look under the coat and see what we've got. Coat's a little bit more difficult to get off, again, because the hair sculpt's there, but I'm intrigued to see the sort of difference underneath. So it does look here again. Oh, it's a little bit of a tight fit. So it does look here again. So obviously for Ruby here, you can see we haven't got quite as much sculpting underneath the jumper as we did on the 15th Doctor one. So doing a coatless version for this one would be a little bit more difficult, but not impossible. But obviously you've also got the the waist swivel as well. Again, legs are quite restricted in this one because of the skirts. You really can't move the legs much further forward than that, but that's not really that far off how far the 15th Doctor's ones would go. You've got the thigh swivel on there. Obviously knee joint, again, you've got the you've got a bit of a ball joint in there. And then the legs do appear to just be on a peg because obviously she's wearing boots, so you don't have any sort of real foot articulation there. So you are a little bit more limited on the articulation of the Ruby Sunday figure, but again, it's not anything that is unexpected, I would say. And it, you know, again, I think the extra articulations in things like the arms, it's, you know, it means, if it means sacrificing a little bit more on the legs, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I think figures this size and scale, it's always going to be difficult to get complete articulation in them, you know. But let's have a quick look on the head sculpt on this one close up as well. So Ruby Sunday's head sculpt is pretty good. It doesn't look unlike Millie Gibson, I have to say. Obviously they've even got the little eyebrow scar in there. I will say that it's perhaps not as good as the 15th Doctor one. And I think the hair colouring is a little bit flat on this. And I know that Scott over at Gallifrey Customs has sort of repainted his, and it does, even just the little things like, you know, the roots in the hair, just adding those in really does just sort of make it stand out a little bit more. So again, it's a very small thing, and I don't wish to make it sound at all like a criticism. It's just, again, an observation for, you know, future reference, especially if these ones are advertised as having higher art deco and things like that. You know, it's just the little things like that. But again, to be fair to CO, this is the first time that they're sort of doing these kind of Gen 3 things, so it's all a bit new, you know, so there's always going to be these little things here and there. But other than that, you know, I think it does definitely look like a very good head sculpt. It looks great alongside the 15th Doctor figure as well. But now we're going to get on to looking at the standard versions in the box. So here are our standard versions of the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday. As I said, they're in different costumes. They've got slightly different art deco on them, but it's great to see that we're getting a variant of the costumes, you know, so quickly. They really do look very good. Obviously, it's a repaint of the you know, of the same figure, it's just got slightly different deco on it. The boxes, as I said, these are ones that are sort of a bubble pack that's put onto a card, which again, I prefer the actual proper ones that have a proper box in them, but the thing that I will give these, you know, that I will give these credit for is that they obviously have these pegs because they are meant to be stacked up and hung on a shelf, which I'm hoping means they've got potential for them to be hoping that there's going to be a lot of sort of figures of this range stacked on the shelves, which means I'm hoping we'll get some other variants in future. In terms of what we've got in the box, obviously Ruby Sunday is just the figure. The 15th Doctor has his sonic screwdriver, but unlike the Vortex editions, these ones come with much more limited, or in Ruby Sunday's case, no accessories. But the interesting thing on the box is if we turn it round, on the 15th Doctor one, you can see we've obviously got a little bit about the 15th Doctor, and then we've got a picture which matches his outfit in the box. If we turn around the Ruby Sunday one, however, you can see that the picture on the box is actually the picture of her in the outfit that is in the Vortex editions. So I think it's a little bit odd that they've not used a picture of her in the outfit that's in the box. However, it's possible that there weren't any suitable promo shots. However, she did pose in that outfit in the promo shots, for promo shots. So it is a slightly odd thing that that's not in the on the box itself. I would have thought that it would make sense to have the outfit that she's in the box on the box. But now I'm going to try and compare the two. As I said, I'm not going to open these ones, so I am just going to try and do a sort of comparison of the art deco on them, because it does seem that the art deco is slightly different on these ones. Now, this comparison is difficult to capture on camera, so I really hope it's going to come up, because I think even if I did unbox the figures, you still wouldn't quite be able to see it as well. But obviously, we've got the two different figures. You know, we've got the Space Babies version, which is in the box, and then we've got the Church on Ruby Road version as well. So my initial differences I can see, obviously we've got minor paint differences, such as his jumper's different, his trousers are a different colour, and obviously the shoes are a different colour as well. But the other thing that I will say, the first thing that I've noticed is the Vortex edition has a lot more weathering on the coat than the standard one, for one thing. In terms of everything else, I can't really see a huge amount of difference. The one thing that does seem to be slightly different, and it could just be the way that the sculpt is sitting, I don't know, but I would say the standard edition jumper, it has this sort of little gap at the bottom, is not as prevalent on the Vortex edition, which makes me wonder if perhaps this version of the jumper is a different sculpt to that one. I don't think it is. I think it might just be the way that the sculpt has come out. I really don't think there's a difference there that I can see. And also, I feel like this really is difficult to capture on camera, again, even if it was out of the box. I feel like the skin tone on the Vortex one has almost had a sort of slightly more paint finish than the standard one. The standard one looks to be more bare plastic with the details printed on it, so I don't know if this one has more of a sort of slightly different plastics been used, or it's been given a slight paint over. They both look fantastic, don't get me wrong, you know, there's nothing in either of them. It's a tricky thing to capture on camera. I think it does just look slightly different in the hand. But overall, you know, they're both very nice figures. Personally, I do prefer the Church on Ruby Road version, just because I think that is my preferred costume for him. But certainly, you know, the standard one I think is a lovely one to see, and it's nice that you know, the standard one is we've got a variant of this outfit, because obviously with the Joy to the World Christmas special coming up, where he has another variant of this outfit, I think I've seen a couple of people do some sort of mock-ups of it. It would certainly be another nice one to see, you know, to have that as another variant of this costume. But I certainly also hope that we do get some other variants of him in other costumes as well. Like I said, a boom version to go with the landmine would certainly be very good to see. And here for the comparison of the Ruby Sunday figures. These ones, again, apart from the obvious difference in colour, are pretty much identical, I'd say. I really can't see any major differences, nothing that jumps out at me as being slightly different in the sculpt. I think this is just a straight up repaint. Personally, I may actually pick up another of these rubies to open because I actually prefer this variant of the outfit to this one. However, I'm almost inclined to do a slight custom one for this because I actually think what would look quite good would be this jacket on this base figure. I don't know why, I just feel like the colouring of that could look quite interesting. I might do a mock-up and maybe buy two other versions of these to do a switch around and see how it looks. But other than that, you know, the figures themselves, they look very good. You know, both of them sort of have very nice detailing on them. There's really not a huge amount to say about these in comparison because they are so similar. There's really not a huge amount of difference to them. So in closing, we have all of our figures here in line. Really, really impressed with these, I have to say. I don't think it's come across in the review quite sort of my inner thoughts of how good these are. They are not without their faults. I'm not without my criticisms of them, but again, I don't think it would be right if I didn't review these fairly. You know, some of the articulation, it feels like, has been lost from previous ones, but we've gained a hell of a lot of articulation, and we've certainly gained a jump in quality, I have to say, in terms of articulation and also just sort of base figures. You know, I think there's been a lot of apprehension in the recent years, especially sort of during the Capaldi era and the 13th Doctor era, the 12th Doctor and 13th Doctor eras, as to the future of the figure lines. And I have to say that whilst I would like to see the quantity of figures that we saw in, say, the Tennant era, it can't be denied that in the Tennant era we did get a lot of things that people, I think, many people, myself included, thought, why have we got that as a figure? Which goes to show that quantity is not always the best thing to have. So I think if I was to give my parting thoughts on these, I think they're really good figures. I would definitely like to see more of them. I would like to see more variants of these characters. I would also like to see more different figures from the series of other characters being released, etc. But I think that these figures are certainly, if we do not get the quantity of previous eras of figures with the forthcoming series, we are certainly going to get the quality with these figures, I think, and I don't think that can really be understated at all. But on that note, that brings to a close another What I Think review. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot. I'm sure description below for a link to my Patreon. I am still doing my figure animation. There is still an update coming on it in future. Along with my channel in future, I'm going to be making some changes in the new year, so there will be an update coming in general in future. But for the meantime, all of your donations are greatly received, and for the smallest donation you can get your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.